What up, my fellow Knicks fans? This is your guy Marcellus Ease, and don't panic quite yet. Now, the Knicks were able to steal yet another game, and in this segment, we're going to get deeper into a nuanced bag as Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks defense continue to put the Celtics superstars in a very familiar, uncomfortable position where they're being forced to make plays in isolation and also under very unique circumstances. The Celtics in this series have slowly gotten their advantages of just having the versatility of size being taken away. And we're going to break this down layer by layer. And we're also going to hear from two NBA Hall of Famers, one still playing at the very moment, as they give great insight to what really makes this Boston Celtics team work. So then we're going to circle back right into the film and tie it all in. But hey, can't be mad. Knicks are up 2-0. MSG is going to be looking like a scene from Gladiator when they meet up for Game 3. But I'm not going to say no more. Let's just get to it.
We New York, we very resilient. We don't play, we scrappy. So this team represents us. This is what New York is about. This is where King Kong died.
Alcohol, right?
So to start this off, we're going to get more deeper into a nuanced bag as there's so many different ways to cover this series. And just us as Knicks fans, as well as NBA fans, this is a very unique time and space right now because we get to hear directly from the players as the game continues to evolve. And in the Knicks' first two games in this series so far, we're seeing very unique circumstances happen where Boston's versatility on the offensive end is slowly being taken away. First of all, Al Horford is looking like he's aging completely. He's missing wide open shots. Cat is completely bullying him down low. And Boston's other big, Kristaps Porzingis, is not creating any unique advantages on his one-on-one matchups. His post game is looking weak, and I don't know if the illness from game 1 that he had is affecting him in this series, but he doesn't look quite as healthy. So the Celtics not getting any advantages from their stretch bigs is creating a situation in which Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown now actually have to reach into their superstar powers and dominate their one-on-one matchups, which is not happening at all. That's why I said we're going to get deeper into a nuanced bag before we get into the film, because LeBron James and Steve Nash have spoke about the advantages the Celtics have on the offensive end. And ironically, in this very series, it's going away. But LeBron James had touched base on how Draymond Green gives the Golden State Warriors the ability to have versatility on defense as well as being a playmaker on offense. And that's really one of their best secret weapons. But overall, him and Steve Nash gave a great breakdown on how some of that versatility applies to the Boston Celtics. And then we're going to tie this all in with the game film. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
You know, and I think that's what the game of basketball is, to be able to have that versatility, to be able to have 6'7" guys that can play big, or 6'4", 6'8", 6'9" across the board. Sure. To be able to make you so versatile that you always keep the defense or keep the other team at bay. Mm-hmm. Because there's some teams that just won't change, or they don't have the versatility.
They traditionally were happy to start with the center, but what they were saying at this point is we're going to play our last card.
Yeah, we'll play our last card.
Take that off the table.
Yeah.
Draymond at 5. So immediately Mozgov has to guard the playmaker.
Yeah.
Draymond's the playmaker. And then defensively they can switch.
Yeah.
And now, okay, if you want to go to Mozgov in the post, they're not going to you in the post.
Right.
So they've now played that card.
They played that card.
By playing it the entire game. They're definitely.
Now, the Celtics are doing the same thing. They're having Jason Tatum defensively guard Karl Anthony Towns. But right now, Towns is making these guys completely pay for it. Every time they either choose Drew Holiday, Tatum, or even Al Horford, Cat is dominating his matchup. He is taking away that versatility that they had defensively, because early in the season, if you look at the game tape, Cat was not taking advantage of those matchups.
Lineup, and so now it's a blanking contest. Are you able to stick with it, or are you going to have to go to the point
and I think they showed the league a lot. I mean, we did it obviously in Miami our second year when Spo was a genius to be able to move Bosh to the 5. You know, we played big early on with Joel Anthony and Chris Bosh, or Udonis Haslem and Chris Bosh. You know, and I think when Bosh went to the 5, it gave us some versatility as well. You know, being more athletic, being a lot longer, being able to open up the court a lot more. So CB could hit the 3, the corner 3. You know, and that's the game. That's the game, to be able to have those dynamics. I mean, you look at Boston. Boston won it, you know, by how versatile they are. You know, when they added Drew Holiday, it made them so much more dynamic.
Right.
Obviously, the growth of Jason and Jalen, you know, but they're going to be who they are.
Yeah.
But to be able to add a guy like Drew Holiday, who is basically a Swiss Army knife, you tell him, what do you need? What do you need, coach? All right, I got it.
Yep.
You know, and that to be able to have those dynamics and have those players, you as a coaching staff, that's something that you dream of to be able, because every series in the postseason is different.
That's right.
Okay, maybe we need to play bigger this postseason in this series. Okay, now this series requires to be more fast. Okay, now this need to be more physical. Now we need to really dial in and be able to have those cards.
Yes.
Now, the Knicks right now, they're slowly taking away the versatility of the Celtics offensively, because what happens when Al Horford starts to show his age? KP is not as healthy. Jalen Brunson, he is playing some beautiful defense. He's holding his own one-on-one in isolation with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, even in the post at times with the bigger players. They're not dominating as much. What happens when all that versatility is taken away? And this is the issue that the Boston Celtics are facing right now.
To play, you know, on Uno, I always got to draw 4 cards.
Right.
Always got it.
Yeah.
You know, you say Uno, I'm right here, I'm ready. As soon as you say Uno, I'm throwing this draw 4 down. That is the luxury. That's the luxury.
And that is the model, having more positionless players. I mean, you can even talk about what's Golden State starting at, the way Boston plays now. I mean, obviously Porzingis, when he plays, is a stretch 5 to protect the rim. But when he doesn't play, they still have positionless basketball. 5 point guards playing blender, lots of threes. Same, in a sense, you can make it a comparison to your Lakers team with AD going to the 5, winning a championship. You could go positionally big, but you could also go with a center and AD next to him. You can play blender, make open shots, or they can go with the 2 bigs, Hardenstein. So you're talking about the top teams, like same with Cleveland.
And right beside them, absolutely.
Optionality, and one of the cards has to be being able to switch. The other card is being able to go a little bigger. You know, those cards, not everyone has.
Not everyone has, and that is a luxury.
That's right. And then you get to the leadership hierarchy, the resilience, toughness, the IQ. And that's what it is. It's the teams that have the profile on the roster, that have the buy-in, that have the leadership, the hierarchy, the resilience, the mental toughness. That's who you see in the finals every year.
There you go.
Man, Steve Nash just laid a bunch of gems right there. Woo! And he's right. The top teams in the league, including the Celtics, the Cavs, and the Thunder, they have that versatility. But one thing with the Boston Celtics has always come into question is the playmaking of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And in this series, we've seen them having to deal with the depth that the Knicks have on the perimeter. You got guys like Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, and Deuce McBride holding their own in isolation against a bunch of 6'7" guys. So the real question is, how is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown going to deal with all that while KP and Al Horford, both of their bigs, are not necessarily creating any advantages on the offensive end? Drew Holiday, as well as most of the Celtics team, is not shooting good from 3. And finally, Jalen Brunson, as well as Karl Anthony Towns, who were the weaker points of this Knicks defense, are actually holding up the end of the bargain on that end. So the pressure now is on the Celtics' top 2 superstar players to play make efficiently in isolation. That's a position that they have not been comfortable with. That's why they went out and got Drew Holiday and KP as insurance policies. And it panned out for them last season, getting into the finals and winning the championship. But the only thing is that they never really had their chin checked. And by the way, the play of Mitchell Robinson really has caught this team off guard. Defensively, he is holding up his own in switch defense. So the Celtics have a number of things they have not really seen from the Knicks in the regular season. Now is getting tossed at them during a time of just being under such a high pressurized situation, being down 0-2. Now we're going to take a look at it and tie it all into the film. As right here, the Celtics get a switch. Now you got JB on Jaylen Brown. And look at the effort by Brunson. He gets in front of Jaylen Brown. Normally in the regular season, this would have been a double right away. Somebody would have doubled, creating an advantage for the Celtics to kick out to shooters. Brunson doing a great job, and it forces the Celtics to be in these positions where they just settle for a 3-point shot. Here we go again. Jaylen Brown with an advantage on Brunson. Look at Brunson holding up on his own, making sure the Celtics have no advantage, and eventually leads to a stagnant possession and a turnover. That's why I stated in the beginning of the Pistons series that Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson's defensive efforts was really going to catapult this Knicks defense into a whole nother level. They don't have to be perfect, but they're going to have to show a slight bump in the energy levels on that end of the floor. JB right here once again against Jaylen Brown. Look at OG backing off of Derek White. And now it's up to Deuce McBride to peel switch. This help defense all series long has been killing the Boston Celtics. Brown and Tatum, they're under pressure to make these proper reads. Let's look at it again. You see Brown and Tatum, they're under pressure in these type of situations to make the proper reads. And this is something that they have not done well with in the first 2 games. They've actually kind of looked the same way that they did in the 2022 NBA Finals going up against the Warriors. Once again, check out Jalen Brunson one-on-one. Look at JB. Stripping JB. Let's get it. That's why I say in this series, Brunson deserves a lot of credit. Look at them picking on Brunson right here. Bring him up to the screen. You know, right here, Derek White. He's pinning down Mikal, forcing that switch. And look at the decision making. This has been an issue for the Celtics right here. The decision making by their superstars. Jaylen Brown 1v1, and he just takes a tough shot on Brunson. Again, the issues involving Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were multi-layered. Their decision making on one-on-one situations, even reacting to the Knicks' help defense with Mikal, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby especially, and Deuce McBride. And most importantly, dealing with Mitchell Robinson either on switch defense or him just being down low. They were hesitant to attack under certain circumstances. Again, just looking at some of the Celtics' top players, failing to make certain reads. Their decision making has been a little bit too slow. Look at OG Anunoby right here, backing off of Jrue Holiday completely. A lot of teams have used this exact formula throughout the regular season, and Jaylen Brown's completely oblivious to this. Again, the Celtics superstar players, their decision-making here comes into play. Early in transition, you got the empty side right here, one-on-one with JB. Why not just drive? Instead, he decides to pull up. It goes to show you, I think Jalen Brunson's defense is starting to get into their heads. They were eating off of this during the regular season. Just every time they saw Brunson, it was an instant mismatch they couldn't wait to take advantage of. Again, sticking to the Celtics superstars. Look at Tatum right here, trying to force this switch. Him and KP. But good job by Mikal and Mitch. They recover. And now it's another switch right here. Once again, look what happens when Tatum doesn't get it. This is great defense by the Knicks. Everybody recovers. But look what happens when their superstar doesn't get that switch. And this is the real question of the series. Who has the better playmaker in these 1v1 situations? Because for the level Tatum and Jaylen Brown supposed to be at, it's looking like the Knicks actually have the better player in this exact situation. Brunson is torching them so far in the series. I mean, in round 1 against the Pistons, you know, people kind of knew the Knicks had the better closer. But right now, the Celtics, man, it's a toss-up. Like, what's going on with them? But right here, this is a nasty shot he settles for. And that is exactly the problem with the Celtics when they don't gain any advantage on these switches. Just going back to our regular season matchup in February, you see right here, Brown is pointing for White to drag Jalen Brunson right here in the screen to get this switch. And this is what the Celtics are looking for right here. You see how Mikal and Deuce are backed off? And now there's open shooters. That's the advantage the Celtics are looking for. Good White. White generates an open look. Even though he doesn't make it right here, but you kind of get the gist. Again, here's the Celtics running more dummy screens to get the real action. See, Tatum's going to force JB to be on him just for them to run the real screen, which is coming from Kornet. See, now they involve Cat and JB. And look how the Knicks right here, this is how they used to play them. They go over the top. Cat is sort of in drop back. And Kornet, if he rolls, he's going to gain an advantage right here. Knicks don't want to give up that three-point shot. And this is what the Celtics thrive off of. 4-on-3 right here. And now Kornet's guaranteed an open shooter. This is why they went out and spent all that money. Paying Derek White, paying Jrue Holiday, paying KP. They basically just got rid of the idea of relying on the typical superstar hero ball. So Tatum and Brown never really had to be too much in that position to having the pressure just being able to make a play on isolation. They sort of opted into more of the team concept. That's why I call them the San Antonio Spurs. Just one more time, look at them run the same play back to back. The dummy screen right here to get JB on Tatum to the real screen, which is coming from Cornette. And then the Knicks not playing switch. Brunson's supposed to recover, go over the top, cat and drop back. And it's pretty much compromised the Knicks. Even Josh Hart right here, he can't help out as much because Horford around this time was a threat from 3. And in this series so far, he's looking like, he's kind of looking like his age. The open 3-point shots are not falling like they used to. He's missed a lot of wide open threes. And I don't know if it's just the workload because KP is not in full health, but it's really affecting this team. Both their bigs right now are not as effective. Now hopping right back in the time machine to present day, as we're going to see the Knicks have major adjustments compared to the last few clips that we just seen. As right here, they throw a double screen, Mitch and OG doubles, but check out the peel switching right here. Mikal quickly on the closeout, Josh Hart is switching, and then Mitch is going to recover back to KP. And like I said, Al Horford, he's showing his age in this series, but the Knicks defense, I don't know if it's the Pistons series, but they're way more on point, way more in sync, and the rotations are definitely more crisp. And all these factors continue to chip away and force us to ask the real questions. Who has the better playmaker? Is it the Knicks or the Boston Celtics? Because Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, even in the mid-range, they struggled. They were 8 of 33 outside the paint, and there were plenty of times where Tatum was 1v1 and he just couldn't convert. Same thing for Jalen Brown. Meanwhile, Jalen Brunson in crucial moments, when the Knicks really need a big bucket, he's coming through. Make no mistake about it, this has caught the NBA media by surprise because they're really sitting there perplexed, trying to figure out how the fuck do the Knicks have the better clutch player, the better big moment bucket getter than the Boston Celtics right now. It's bad enough the 3-point shots are not falling for the Celtics, but god damn, their superstars can't even get shots to fall in 1v1 situations from the mid-range. And it's gotten so bad even after a while Tibbs actually reverted the defense to giving Tatum the open 3, just the open look. They had OG go under and they were conceding a lot of open shots and they were still bricking it. So their main leader, Jason Tatum, can not only convert in certain situations, you got Jalen Brown making a lot of mistakes. His decision making has been really poor in game 2 especially. And low-key, he was a lot better playmaker in game 1. Sometimes the politics with these teams, things kind of get funny in the light because Brown, for the number of touches he had in game 1, he actually did a lot better job playmaking versus Jason Tatum in game 1. This is a very unforeseen circumstance because Mitchell Robinson, I don't know if he had a bunch of fucking voodoo dolls down there in New Orleans with Tatum and Brown, but they are completely off. Even the Celtics coach during the post-game presser kind of overtly admitted that Mitch was throwing off their games. And so he had to institute the hack of Mitch and get him the fuck up off the floor.
So you're good with the decision to foul Mitch there?
Yeah. He's a plus 19. All their starters were in the negative.
My man Robotic Joe is low-key talking in code because Mitch is fucking it up for their superstars. As Jalen Brown right here runs pick and roll with KP. Again, no advantage right here because now he has to deal with Mitch. And KP, there's no way in hell he's posting up OG. It's just not happening. They're going to get a shot clock violation right here. Mitch dropping some of that weight during his recovery days as the Celtics get the switch right here. It kind of allowed him to return more into his pogo stick days. It's crazy to think back because there were days where he can run behind a guard from the 3-point line and chase him down and block him. And just how fast he can just hop up and down and to grab the boards. It was insane. But Mitch right here does a great job keeping up with Tatum. Once again, this conversion right here, this is where Jalen Brunson is beating Tatum at. Not necessarily on this exact type of shot against a big, but just Brunson is converting more on just the bigger buckets at very pivotal moments in the game. Look at Mitch against Pritchard. This is where the Knicks are winning because Al Horford is losing his battle against Brunson. The Knicks center is doing a much better job of guarding the Celtics' much smaller players. Brunson really in this series has been salivating over just getting the KP and Al Horford matchup. So this is a dynamic that's really playing out in the Knicks' favor, which during the regular season it actually played out in the Celtics' favor, as the two big men was really creating havoc on the Knicks, whether it be them making shots from three-point range or them playmaking inside of the arc. But again, in this series, they're getting cooked. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns is taking full advantage of his mismatches. Just like in the Pistons series, he has the more favorable matchup. Al Horford just looking way too slow to guard him in the paint and even out in the perimeter. And that's forcing the Celtics now to double cat, sometimes going down low in the post, thus leaving them very vulnerable to offensive rebounds. And that's where we see Josh Hart is coming in and just cleaning up in this series. Those second chance opportunities from Josh Hart is really saving the Knicks at times because they're converting those threes at a really high rate. It's almost reminiscent to the Knicks a few seasons ago, where they didn't necessarily have the shooters, but yet the offense was still ranked one of the best offenses in the league because we were just killing them on the boards. Mitch, Josh Hart, Isaiah Hartenstein, etc. So we're seeing a renaissance to that swagger, and it's slowly coming back because, again, the bigs of the Boston Celtics, they're fragile at this point. KP is not even posting up the smaller players, and it's only adding on to the amount of pressure being put on Jalen Brown as well as Jason Tatum. So we broke this down in multiple layers. The Jalen Brunson defense, Jason Tatum as well as Jalen Brown dealing with the Knicks help defense coming from Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby, and their poor decision making. Mitchell Robinson, even through his absence this season, is finally kicking in. He lost the weight, thus it's allowing him to play really well and switch defense no matter who he's matched up with, from Pritchard to Brown to Tatum. And the final thing was the Celtics bigs not necessarily contributing and being a factor like they once was. They're not creating any advantages on their mismatches, and also they're not hitting their open shots. Al Horford is looking old, and KP is looking fragile out here, not even able to post up the smaller Knick guards. All these factors came into play in the closing moments of the game. Before we get to the closing moments of the fourth, there was quite a few things that stuck out. First of all, Tatum once again dealing with the Knicks help defense. These guys really looked like how they did in that 2022 finals going up against the Warriors. As Mitchell Robinson, Deuce, OG, Mikal, this has so far been proven too much to deal with for Tatum and Jalen Brown. But again, there was a few dynamics that was interesting. This shot right here was one of the last buckets the Celtics got in the whole game. They missed the next 13 shots going from here on out, which when you really think about it, it shows you how stagnant and stale this offense can get when they really can't gain an advantage. And what's even worse is that they were missing wide open three-point shots during that time span. And I'm not going to lie, Mikal having 0 points in the fourth quarter and coming in and just applying pressure and dropping 14, as well as playing great defense. It's a weird conundrum with him because he's more of a system player. And I know in the closing game against the Detroit Pistons in Game 6, his offense really didn't come off of the shots he was taking. Most of his offense was really involved with team activities. Guys running out in transition because of defensive stops, great passes from off-ball cuts. A lot of his buckets came like this. He really only hit about less than 3 shots, I would say, from long range or just three-point range. But they were very critical because it kind of stopped the Pistons' momentum when he made those shots. And the same thing applied in this game. He's more of a rhythm system player, and he really gets going when the team defense is on point. But with Mikal, it's really about the addition that he is when you put him next to OG, Josh Hart, Deuce McBride, and Mitchell Robinson. There's a dynamic there that stands out more than individual play from him. It's almost as if he feeds off his teammates' energy. It's really hard to judge. That's why us Knicks fans have been so up and down with him all season. But in retrospect, he's really had a decent year. And now we see a lot of the carryover from the Pistons series when it comes to the defense going into this one. It kind of gives him a different look and feel. It's hard to quantify, but you see it in spurts. And right now in this series, we're seeing it in the right moments. All right, so now we're going to fast forward to the beginning, closing moments of this game. JB with a nice hedge and recover. Check out Towns, completely caught in the screen right here. And Brown has a clear drive right here. But look at Mitch. This is why Joe Mazzulla wanted to get him out of the game. He knows Mitch was low-key fucking with his stars. They did not want to drive and play more into their game, because if he drove, now Josh Hart has to stunt in more. Other players might have to double. Then that's when their shooters open up. That's their normal flow. That's their normal game. But Mitch was in their heads. And keep in mind, they were already cold from 3. And you couldn't be any more wide open than that. But going back to Mitch, he was definitely in their heads, because now Mazzulla in the next few plays, oh man, they fouled Mitch 3 times. Even though they had 3 fouls to give before they got into the bonus, they wasted all of them on Mitch. And this did come back to haunt them, because Al Horford, with the Knicks up 1, he had to be careful the way he guarded Brunson right here. They didn't want to send him to the line off rip. Mitch really fucked with their heads, because to give away 3 fouls like that in a game that's coming down to the wire, when your team is cold, it really put them in a compromised position. Because this possession right here, they could have had a take foul. It would have been their 3rd or 4th team foul. But instead, they had to, guard differently. But in a way, it kind of took away a small advantage of them just forcing the Knicks to reset, or even changing the way defensively they guarded them. Once again, the Knicks are not really a free throw shooting team. The Celtics only had 1 team foul. Then they fouled Mitch 3 times in less than 4 seconds. That hacker Mitch had them New Orleans voodoo dolls attached to it or something. Celtics straight spooked. But what's even more spookier for the Celtics is a question that most media members throughout the NBA will be afraid to ask, is which team has the better star who could actually convert in closing moments. A lot of the NBA media members are based out of Boston or have some sort of affiliation over there with the expansive school system and the print media. And they're very protective of their stars, Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. But make no mistake about it, in game 2, we got a lot of samples. And a lot of the perfect concoctions were formed for us to test this sample. The Knicks being able to play switch defense, Al Horford not really performing as well, and he's looking like he's aging. And the Celtics' other perimeter players outside of their stars are struggling to make open shots. So how well are Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown are going to be able to deal with the combination of OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, and Mikal Bridges out there in the perimeter? So for Boston media and the NBA media at large, you can't protect these two from their judgment day. And like my man Tracy Morgan has said, this is New York City, baby. King Kong died here. Ain't no escaping this. Hopping right back into the action, Knicks up 1. We already know the dynamics at play right here. And check out Brown. What is he going to do? Is he going to convert? Jalen Brown, once again, he's one-on-one with Brunson on the island. Knicks up 1. What is he going to do? Settles for a tough shot. This is where Brunson got him beat. And it's going to be a real uncomfortable conversation to have going into next season as to which team has the best player in closing moments. You got the reigning finals MVP throwing up 2 questionable shots right there. He didn't generate any space. He didn't utilize his size to his advantage. And even taking the ball to the cup in that first possession, his finishing ability looked a little off. JB, on the other hand, it's just no hesitation. He knows the Celtics right here in the bonus and completely takes it to them. Brunson has certain intangibles you're just not going to see on a draft sheet. And Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, they had the resume coming into the league as well as the athletic and raw talent. But Brunson, man, that is a fucking winner. And something right here you fellas might not have noticed when the game ended. Notice Brunson. He's waiting to hear that buzzer. He's making sure the ball don't go out of bounds. He's securing the win. I noticed that he did this a couple of seasons ago when Julius Randle didn't play defense right before the half, and he thought the opposing player wouldn't get to the ball on time because it was about to go out of bounds. Brunson chased him down and made it difficult for the opposing player to actually get a shot off and perhaps to steal a bucket. That's when I knew, I'm like, okay. That's when I knew, oh man, this guy is something else. He's making sure that he gains an advantage at every inch and leaves nothing on the table. But hopping right back into the action, looking at some of these guys in closing moments, pay attention to Al Horford right here. This is a very smart screen. He's going to catch Towns completely off guard because it looks like he's going to give a screen right here, but he goes to the right side. And it's going to completely catch Towns off guard. See how he switches? And now Tatum could attack this. Al Horford making up for some of the aging he's shown so far in this series. All right, so here we go. The final play of the game. Looking at Mitchell Robinson right here. A lot of the concepts we spoke about, like him being able to switch one-on-one on defense and being able to hold his own, came up in this scenario. And also, the Knicks help defense. Mitch showing that mobility. Tatum having to go through a lot of guys, man. Look at OG and Mitch right here. And now the help defense, which has been a catalyst throughout this whole series. It's been Josh Hart. It's been Mikal. And it's also been OG in the same position right here. But it's really been a difference maker for the Celtics. Tatum and Brown, they have not reacted fast enough, especially when these corner wings right here come to help out. They have not been fast enough with their reactions. A great play by Mikal right here. And once again, look at JB sprinting it out. It's just been incredible team effort all around. And a lot of the team vibes from last season, they're back. But I'm going to leave you guys with one last thing with Tibbs, just describing the team's overall character.
Well, always have the belief, I think, in each other. You know, I think you get to the playoffs, it's about really your mental toughness, your defense, and your teamwork. And always having the belief that you could do something better and you can find a way to win, right? So it's a long game, keep playing, and that's what they did. And this team has been that way all season long. You know, we dealt with, you know, Mitch being out more than the first half of the season. Then Jalen took the injury in March, and just they kept marching forward, and I think that's important for us. Thought Mitch gave us a huge lift off the bench. Cat was, you know, huge, had the big putback. You know, I think Mikal, the way he scored in the fourth was huge for us. It gave us a lot of confidence. And then, you know, Jalen, that's Jalen. You know, it doesn't matter what's going on in the game. He's going to be at his best when his best is needed. Timely plays, but there was a lot of hustle plays in there as well.